Welcome, friends. Welcome to our podcast, Global Focus, where we discuss very important subjects that is utterly important for India and the globe. Last week, India and the United States announced that they are calling a historic trade deal. The government says it's a massive win. The opposition calls it a complete surrender. And here the interesting part. The most important commitment about the Russian oil appears in Trump's executive order, but is completely missing from India's official statement. So, what actually happened? Did India get a great deal, or did we just agree to something we are not quite ready to admit? Today, we are going beyond the headlines to ask the questions no one else is asking. And to help us make sense of all this, I am delighted to welcome Dr. Adityanjee, President of the Council for Strategic Affairs. Dr. Adityanjee has been following India-US relations closely and has some really sharp insights on what this deal actually means for India's economy, our foreign policy, and what happens next. Welcome to the show, Dr. Adityanjee. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha, for inviting me on Global Focus again. Within a week, we are discussing India-US trade deal once again.
Yes.
Since there is some information available.
Yes.
Previously, there was no information available, so it was in the speculation.
So the very first question that is on the mind of every Indian, the US says don't buy Russian oil. And they have clearly written in the executive statement that came from the White House. The Russian oil elephant in the room, a strategic surrender or diplomatic ambiguity. President Trump's executive order explicitly states India has committed to stop directly or indirectly importing Russian oil. Yet the official India-US joint statement makes no mention of this commitment, and Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal declined to comment. The joint statement provided no mention of India's Russian oil purchases or formal pledge from India to confirm the move. Given that India has been one of the largest buyers of discounted Russian crude since 2022, what does this conspicuous silence reveal about India's actual commitments? Is this a strategic ambiguity or a compromise of India's non-aligned foreign policy?
I think we are looking too much deep into it. We need to realize that there's no bilateral trade agreement signed yet. What has been announced is an interim framework that will be signed in March. There are some immediate details available from this agreement for an interim framework. So bilateral trade deal is still far away. Let's not get carried away, hijacked by emotions. And in India, being a very noisy democracy, the opposition always tries to, find or score political points. So that is what is happening. You need to understand very deeply what is happening. So there's a joint India-US statement that has no mention about this. Okay. But it does say that the tariffs will go down from 25% to 18%. And that is going down immediately. So it's a confidence building measure. India also had issue with so-called punitive tariffs on Russian oil purchase. India did not impose those so-called punitive oil tariffs. Who imposed those? United States. Now, in all fairness, in order for the deal to be negotiated, you cannot continue to penalize the other party. So it puts White House into a very twisted position they have to take back what they did. And this
Yeah.
is what is the TACO acronym,
Mhm.
from always chickens out, that you take impulsive actions that are counterproductive to your overall strategy. And it is very clear that India did not bow down. India did not, surrender. Or as Howard Lutnick was saying, oh, you have to come to the table and say sorry to the Trump.
Mhm.
Only then we will move forward. And train has already left because other countries have got favorable deal. You cannot come back to a lower level of tariff.
Mhm.
All that was hogwash. In a sense, if you look much more objectively, Mr. Trump is walking back what he did because he realized that it does not pay any dividends because
Mhm.
India, despite last 12 months rhetoric about India is going to cut down on oil purchase from Russia, India has committed, and then you put in August 25% punitive tariffs, India did not buckle down. So the first thing as an immediate confidence building measure White House did was to put a separate executive order saying that the so-called punitive tariffs are being lifted. And they are being lifted immediately with effect from February 7th, 12:01 a.m.
Yes,
And
yes.
if you read that executive order, it also says
Mhm.
that there will be refund of tariffs collected. Nobody is looking at that. It says that. And since these tariffs were imposed under emergency authority, and that emergency authority is already in question in United States Supreme Court. And if in 4 weeks or 8 weeks Supreme Court comes out with a ruling that tariffs were unconstitutional because they were imposed by the president, not by the Congress,
Mhm.
then this whole strategy about putting tariffs on all countries will fall apart. Absolutely. Realize these, minor technical details that are there. And in order to assuage the feelings of his domestic audience, he has said that, oh, we'll continue to monitor and Secretary of State can reimpose the tariffs again if India does not uh, stop buying the oil. The reality is that US keeps on putting itself in a very difficult situation by putting its foot into its mouth. They
Mhm.
passed, CATSA. You know, what happened? There were sanctions on other countries. They could not put sanctions on India for buying S-400. They had to make their own legislative slash executive arrangements to exempt India's investment in Chaba port in Iran. One thing people need to realize that India US bilateral relationship, nothing is static. Nothing is long term. The
Mhm.
administration changes every 4 years,
Yeah.
and the president brings something else.
Mhm.
This president has left with less than 3 years, and the last year would be totally lame duck because nobody can take major actions during that time during the election year. Now, coming to the reality of oil, India was purchasing Russian oil before 2021 only 2 to 3% of its need. After the sanctions were put on Russian oil,
Mhm.
Russia started to sell it discounted 30 to $35 per barrel discount than the Brent crude benchmark price. Currently, the price is $68 per barrel. So during the heyday, India started to increase and India started purchasing up to 2 million barrels per day from Russia because you were getting 30 to 35%
Mhm.
discount. And at one point in time, crude price were like $100 per barrel. So India had substantial trade, advantage because of that.
Mhm.
As this discount is going down, maybe $10 per barrel or maybe $6 per barrel,
Mhm.
that advantage that you were getting, $30 per barrel price, that is going down. And commensurate with that, India's purchase of Russian crude, the Ural crude, is going down. Now it is around 1 million barrel per day. Now, with all these things, government does not buy, it's the private refineries buy. Okay, they make a business decision. They do their risk calculation, all that sort of thing. They have to take into consideration the cost of shipping, the cost of insurance. Now, cost of insurance is increased because of, American and European sanctions on Russian oil. And Russia is also reopening the pipeline supply of crude to Europe. That is coming
Yes.
back.
Oh, see. I see.
So, from both the parties, from Russian perspective, they have other buyers through pipeline. From Indian perspective, it may not be prudent for the time being, and the economic advantage that is going down. Now, India has said very openly, we are a country of 1.4 billion people. We will do whatever is best for our country, needs of our consumers. They have high energy needs, and we are diversifying our sources. And Russia has also said that the same thing. They have said that India knows what to do because they have diverse sources of supply. We were not the only supplier. They have been buying from other people also. So I don't see any major problem right now. Trump administration is undoing what it stupidly did, thinking that India will buckle up. India did not. And they are realizing that it is a irritant. It's a hurdle. It's a roadblock in achieving the bilateral trade agreement. Unilaterally, they are forced to remove that thing. Why should India bother about it or comment about it? India has not made any commitment in writing, okay? Because that's not how India operates. As far as diversification is concerned, India is also not saying that whatever they were purchasing from Russia, they will purchase from United States. That has not been said. India has other options. If you want to buy from North America or American hemisphere, there will be some purchase from Venezuela. In fact, Ambani's Jamnagar refinery has already purchased 2 million barrels from Venezuela oil a couple of days ago. India is going to enter into a bilateral free trade agreement with Canada. Mark Carney is coming to India in March to sign that. It's almost done. Canada is also very rich in hydrocarbons, gas, and crude. So India will have another source to buy from. So India will make decisions which are fiscally prudent for India and Indian consumers. India is not willing to give in writing any undertaking, although there may have been some assurance or whatever that yes, we will not be buying so much in the bulk from Russia, but that depends on the market forces. And instead of saying that, well, we succumb to United States, it's the other way around that US is forced to walk back its steps, which were being counterproductive. Because it's not that only India is going to benefit. They are also going to benefit from access to the largest consumer market and, selling American goods or American hardware or American energy products or other things. So I am at a loss to understand why people are making so much of a big deal about it when they have not read that even the previous, tariffs that had been collected may be reimbursed. So America is just doing damage limitation to the bilateral relationship because they were the ones who took that act. Indirectly, by remaining quiet and steadfast, India has forced United States to walk back.
But they are repeatedly saying, even the executive order that I have read, they are again talking about the agricultural products and all that. So India has promised they will be looking at it. So that way they are just repeating.
See, again, agricultural products, the minister Piyush Goyal has been very categorical that although some agricultural product would be purchased from United States, but it does not affect majority of Indian agriculture and dairy sector. That has been totally kept aside, just like with European Union. Okay. So on wheat, rice, major crops, dairy products, India will not be purchasing the United States agricultural products. People don't know that India had put 30% tariffs on US export of pulses, green peas and lentils and things like that in November of 2025.
Wow.
So there are tools in the toolbox that are available to the diplomatic establishment in
Mm.
case United States, you know, falters again from the path. So, yes, there will be some purchase of soybean oil or something like that, or dried drains for distilleries and things like that. But it does not affect the domestic agricultural sector to the extent that people are trying to make out. In fact, it's much more political with all these farmers associations that are traditionally anti-government, have a political backing from opposition parties. And you saw what happened during farmers' agitation
Yeah.
uh, in Delhi. They want to repeat the same thing for political advantage. So they will do everything. They are saying they will do a nationwide strike on February 12th without even looking into what is agreed, what is not agreed.
So the way the executive order this, the joint statement has been written, it appears that both the parties are keeping enough space for maneuvering.
Well, there are two things. One is a joint statement, that is a separate document.
Yeah.
Second is White House executive order that is, reversing the 25% so-called punitive tariffs on Russian oil purchase. So those are separate things. And that is essential because if you do not remove those punitive tariffs, there's no deal. There is no deal. So, in other words, India, by her steadfast approach, without blinking, has forced the United States to take back those tariffs.
Yeah.
India has not given a written commitment that, oh, we are not going to buy Russian oil. This is the executive order stating that India intends to cut down.
Yeah.
And it may happen for temporarily based on the economic advantage or market conditions.
Mm.
Right now, the advantage India had to purchase Russian oil has almost gone because the insurance costs have increased
Mm.
and the discount is not that deep. If it is like $6 per barrel or $5 per barrel, and
Mm.
then your insurance cost rises by $7 per barrel, actually it is much more expensive. And India has not given in writing that whatever we were buying from Russia, we'll start buying from US. We may buy some energy from US, but we may also buy from Canada. We may also buy from Venezuela. We may also buy from Nigeria. We may also buy from Guyana that we have started to work on. We have plenty of choices. So why do you try to link this with India's non-aligned status, India's strategic autonomy? India
Mm.
is diversifying sources of energy. You
Mm.
don't want to put all your eggs into one basket, even if that is Russian basket. There are issues there also.
Coming to the next concern, the 500 billion purchase commitment.
Hmm.
Is this an economic pragmatism or political theater? India has committed to purchasing 500 billion in US goods over 5 years, an average of 100 billion annually.
So currently, the annual trade is, you know, in goods around 120, $130 billion per year. In February of 2025, both the nations made an aspiration statement that by 2030 we will increase the bilateral trade to $500 billion. And now we have this thing. It's not a commitment. It's again a hope and aspiration that India will purchase up to $100 billion per year from US. But it is in a reciprocal manner, balanced and reciprocal manner. Those words you miss. What it tells you that India will also sell to US pretty much similar amount. What you are going to see is some sort of supply chain integration. Immediately reducing the tariff on India to 18% on textiles, other leather goods, and there are certain categories that will have only zero duty. Gems and diamonds and pharmaceuticals and APIs, they will have zero tariffs on it. So idea is that you have balance and reciprocal trade. And if you increase it to the level that each country is buying and selling $100 billion from each other, that brings in 5 years the trade level to $1 trillion bilateral trade. What has not been said is a reference to a third party without naming the third party. Smart people will know what is being said. United States is de-risking from China, and the effort of this is to put India in a situation when India is selling the things US needs, instead of those things being manufactured in China. We are already number 2 manufacturers of cell phones. And despite all this, we continue to sell the cell phones from India to United States. Actually, in December, the trade was more. Indian exports were more. So again, you don't actually get carried away that, oh, we agreed to do this. But what is the advantage? The tariffs are 18% on India, 10% on UK, 15% on EU products. And it is also stated that while the final bilateral deal is being negotiated, Indian side is going to continue to work on America reducing tariffs on Indian products. So it's not fixated at 18%. Now you look what is happening. The apparel industry from China is going to have 30% tariffs. So you have 12-point advantage vis-a-vis China. Bangladesh, that had 0% tariff on apparels, as it was an LDC, least developed countries, will have 20% tariffs on apparels. So India has again advantage there. Similarly, Pakistan will have 19% tariffs. Indonesia will have 19%. Vietnam has 20%. So pretty much all of this over the Southeast Asia, the tariff rates are going to be higher than that on Indian apparel industry. So United States purchases almost $118 billion worth of clothes, manufactured clothes from abroad. They don't have that kind of capacity to generate or manufacture stitched ready-made garments by themselves. Their labor costs are so high, so they have to continue to import. What all this song and dance is being done to replace China and bring India into US supply chains. So you will be able to actually dominate that $118 billion worth of clothing industry. Or for that matter, leatherware, the footwear, gems, diamonds, handicrafts. So you are going to buy, let's say, aircrafts or oil or natural gas or certain, let's say, armament, aeroplanes. We are buying new systems from US. That is also part of that 100 billion. It's not going to be separately. We buy drones from US. We buy certain advanced platforms from US. We are not buying F-35s. That is nowhere to be mentioned. There was so much of noise about India purchasing F-35s. India said it does not fulfill our needs. So the statement is aspirational. Indian government is not fooled that they will every year hand over $100 billion to US. It does not work like that. Please try to understand. India has arrived on the scene. It is right now the fourth largest economy in nominal terms. In terms of purchasing power capacity, is the second largest GDP. It is making its weight presence. India has options. India has multiple bilateral FTAs already being signed, including with European Union, the FTA that was signed recently, and that is what forced United States that it will, you know, miss the bus. Indian bus will go away without United States. As of March of 2026, Mark Carney from Canada is coming. He will also sign a bilateral free trade agreement. So India is in a very nice position. And Indian economy is going to continue to grow from 11th largest GDP. We are now at fourth level. And within a year, we are going to be the third level.
So coming back to
You have
the
access to a market.
yeah.
A market that spends 30 or 29 trillion dollars every year. You will have access to that market.
So coming exactly to that question, when you talk about the agricultural protection versus market access, so who really won?
It's not a question of winning. You know, when you sign bilateral trade agreements,
Yeah.
it is mutual. The trade is mutual. There's no, you are not fighting a war here. You
Mhm.
are negotiating a trade agreement, and there are two parties to it. One sells something, the other sells the other thing. Yes, you need things like pulses or lentils from US or tree nuts, things like almonds or, walnuts and things like that. They produce in bulk. And if you buy apples and pears from United States, that's not going to affect the Indian agriculture. In fact, you will be able to continue to sell your, fisheries and shrimps, seafood. So it's a give and take. Try to understand. It's a give and take. It's not that, all the American agriculture is going to flood the Indian market. Indian government has said there are no-go areas. We are not going to purchase any GMOs. That was one red line. US dairy industry will not be allowed to sell because of cultural reason. And we know what that cultural reason is, that because
Mm.
all the dairy products in United States are contaminated with feed
Mm.
that is non-plant based feed. So the milk and milk products from US, they will not be acceptable.
So this is the similar case with 18% tariff. Should we call it historic achievement or damage control?
It is a damage control on part of United States because they realize they want to, their main problem is with China. Because of China's predatory mercantile practices, United States is almost losing $1 trillion every year to China. And they wanted to change that. So what they did, they put 10% basic tariff on every country when they declared on April 2nd, the so-called Liberation Day, that any geographical entity, even uninhabited islands, they will have to pay 10% tariffs. Why was that done in an uninhabited islands? Because China is very shrewd. They will shift their production to some unknown island
Mm.
and get zero tariff access. So all this exercise of Trump administration was geared towards managing trade relations with China. Under the current circumstances, there will be 35% tariff on China. They do not want to be solely dependent on China and hemorrhaging United States money to China. Now, in that process, other countries get caught in the crossfire. And that is what happened with India. Point is that United States is realizing that by bullying, by trying to intimidate, by threatening India, they were not able to get the desired results. So now they are sugarcoating because they need actually partnership with India for multiple reasons. trade is one aspect, but there is a strategic partnership on the other side. And it has been said that there will be a 10-year defense relationship, which is being separately negotiated. That's not part of it, but it has been mentioned. So this $100 billion that has been bandied about, India is one of the largest arm buyers, at this point in time after Ukraine, because Ukraine, of course, is buying because of the war, but India has need. Yes, we have Atmanirbhar Make in India initiative, and a lot of things are being produced domestically, but we still need certain advanced technologies. So those will be probably purchased under FMS, foreign military sales route, from United States. So overall, ultimately, who is blinking? It is United States who blink. You know, apparently Mr. Dovell had gone to US and told his US counterpart, that happens to be US Secretary of State because he has dual hats, two hats, National Security Advisor. And he had said, we will coolly wait for next 3 years for your administration to run out its time. We can manage. Those are the kind of things, India signing a trade deal with EU, those are the kind of things that put pressure on US administration, that if you do not get into agreement with India, you will lose that market.
Yeah, right. We have only 5 minutes of time left, and I have one more concern about the implementation timeline
Yeah.
and the legal asymmetry. So, while the March deadline matters, then the United States could move ahead with tariff actions through executive mechanisms, while India is expected to implement tariff changes only after the formal legal agreement is signed due to its MFN tariff structure. The
Again,
US.
there is a misconception here.
Okay.
Executive order is actually removal of tariffs. It's not imposing tariffs, it's removal of tariffs. From 50%, if you are going down to 18% because of the executive action, what does that tell you? You have less than half of 50%. That is immediately with effect from February 7, 25% of punitive tariffs gone. And the so-called reciprocal tariffs, which I call unilateral tariffs, have gone down from 25% to 18%. And yet there will be some sectors which there will be zero tariff. The cloth manufacturers, the manufacturers of ready-made garments in Tirupur in Tamil Nadu, whose shipments have been held back and people have started to lose jobs, they will be immediately able to send shipments to United States. So why do you say that you have to wait till March? That is giving you immediate access. In diplomatic parlance, it is called a confidence building measure, which United States was forced to take in order to give enough goodwill to Indian negotiators so that a later bilateral free trade agreement can be negotiated. Again, what is agreed upon is an agreement on interim framework, not the full bilateral deal. Everything, all the cards are not on picture. At least you don't want an impasse. You want trade to continue, and for trade to continue, the offending party was United States. They had to rub their nose and take back what they had imposed. And this 18% is not a fixed number. It is said that in actual bilateral trade deal, India will continue to negotiate for lower tariff rates. What more than do you want? If you say that, oh, previously the tariffs were 2 to 3% and that advantage is lost, nobody is getting that advantage. Even their closest ally, UK, is getting 10% tariffs.
Do you see the opposition parties in India are going to just intensify some opposition to this the bilateral agreement that
Yes.
uh,
Uh, I'm very sad to say, very sorry to say, that opposition parties in India have a knee-jerk reaction to everything the government negotiates or
yeah.
government does. And they come with very far-fetched conspiracy theories based on no evidence, flimsy evidence, or contrived evidence. So you expect that communist CPIM has already said that they are against this, deal, while their, puppet masters sitting in Beijing are themselves negotiating the deal. US is forced to sign this deal because Trump is going to China in April and he wants India on his side so that he can pressurize China. Similarly, these farmers organizations, people have very generous view of them. I don't have very generous view of them. They are all political players who take the, sort of name of farmers and they are just playing their politics. And less said about Congress party because that is in totally anti-national traitor mode, and they will never concede any good work done by the current government. At least in last 12 years they have not done. They have questioned everything. Congress party was the one which questioned India's nuclear tests in 1998. What more should I say? I have no respect whatsoever because they are not even ideological. It's purely power grab. How do we displace this government, make it dysfunctional and inoperable, and get back to power so that we can line our pockets as we were doing, taking commissions on every deal earlier? That is Congress agenda.
Yes, it is.
And I'm sorry to say, usually I don't take this kind of, critical approach to party politics. But I have to take it there because these people are not working in
National.
national interests.
So that was all for today, friends. So this was the interim agreement that has been signed and what we should learn about it, how it has been done, and what are the scopes for India. So if you have any question on your mind, do write in comment. We'll be answering the question. And if you like the discussion, please like the video and share the video with your friends and family. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Adityanjee. Thank you for your valuable time.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sana. My parting message to your viewers is that sky is not falling down on India. India has not surrendered its economic autonomy or strategic economy. This is going to bring benefit to India, like EU India trade deal, like in India Australia